Calcast 12, man, what's good? I'm live. Que bueno, mi gente. It's good to be here on a Monday night. What is this, March 1st, 2021, Calcast 12. Hit that sub button. Hit the like button when you come in, please. Shout out to everybody, man, all the new subs, everybody who's been watching. Um, Views have been good. And I want to talk Canelo tonight. Canelo. Good to have the pound for pound champ. Let me lower this mic a little bit, man. It's aggravating me. Good to have the pound for pound champ and the cash cow active. What's up, Outlaw? Like I said, man, y'all hit that like button as y'all come in. Get some more people in here. Let me pull up something on my phone and let some people come in before I really get into the podcast. Let me put this up. What's up, Ellis 150? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing names, man. Y'all know me by now. If y'all been following the channel for a while, I'm horrible at names. I butcher names all the time. So take no offense to it if I do that. Giving some people some time to enter. You know, like I said, if y'all hit the y'all come in on the archive. A lot of people have been watching on the archive. Make sure y'all leave y'all's comments below. But let's get into this. Canelo did what we expected him to do, right? If you caught my podcast on Saturday before the fight, came on about 5 hours before the fight because the prop bets finally came up. And I said, there's no value in betting Canelo to win the fight or Yildirim to win the fight because everybody knew Yildirim wasn't going to win the fight. So there was no value there. The only value betting-wise was in the prop bets. And it was in either betting the fight quarterly or in thirds. And I advised everyone to bet this fight in thirds. I expected the stoppage to happen somewhere between 3 and 5. I really liked where they placed the over-under at 4.5. I think that was a perfect place to put it and where I expected it to be. And I bet, and I have the receipts on Twitter. You can go on Calix Boxing 2 on Twitter. I bet $50 on Canelo stopping him between round 1 and 4. And it happened in the third. That's not to pat myself on the back or anything. I just thought it was an easy call. For Canelo to get this over with quick. He didn't want to mess around. He's trying to announce a big fight coming up in May. He's just coming off of a fight in December. So he wanted to get this guy out of there. Get it done clean. No cuts. Don't risk anything. Don't risk a hand injury. None of that. Just get this done. Get it done clean. Get it over with. And that's what happened. And that's why I thought rounds 1 through 4 was the perfect bet. I think it was like I bet 50 and 157, so I think it was like plus 105, something like that. So a good bet. I thought it had a lot of value in it. 1 through 3 had a lot more value, and you would have won. But I was just a little nervous to do 1 through 3, and that's why I did 1 through 4. I expected this fight to be done somewhere between 3 and 5, and I bet on it happening in rounds 3 or 4. And that's what happened here. Not much to break down as far as the fight. And that's what we all expected. You bet on a outlaw bet on let me pull this up real quick. 4th round stoppage, and I got screwed. You know what's funny about that? I'm glad you brought that up. Because I was getting nervous that this was going to drag on into the 5th round. I really was. After watching the 3rd round, I was like, oh, yeah, he got him hurt. But what if he lasts in the 4th round and makes it into the 5th, 6th, and I lose my bet? I was starting to get a little nervous that it wasn't going to happen in the next round. So although anticlimactic, I was hoping for a big knockout as a boxing fan. I was happy that it was stopped there, that it didn't go into the 4th round and drag on. So, yeah, if you bet the 4th round, you got screwed. Because if you bet single rounds and you hit, that's a nice payout. That's a nice payout. So I feel bad for you, man, because it would have, had that fight not been stopped in the corner. And look, dude, he got paid $2.5 million to fight 3 rounds, and he barely even threw any punches. So good for him. But they were saving him from getting hurt. I guess a good stoppage in that sense, but maybe a little premature. But he wasn't complaining at all. But it sucks for somebody like you because that was going to happen in the 4th round. That was good. That stoppage was going to happen in the fourth round. You would have got a nice payout because the odds were really good for that. The bell for the fourth round ring. Yeah, I wonder what it is for that. Like, why can't you, if the bell for the fourth round rings and they announce a stoppage, is that not technically a fourth round knockout? I guess not. I guess they're going to claim that it happened in the corner. So I guess technically it's a third round stoppage. I don't know. But tough break, man, because that fourth round stoppage that ended up being that was a great bet to make. It really was. You got screwed there. You're right on that. But as far as the fight goes, not much to break down. What we saw, what I did last Tuesday in my preview of the fight, I said it was going to be uppercuts and body shots, and that's exactly what Canelo gave us. He saw the same film we all saw, and he's more of a boxing genius than any of us ever will be. I mean, his team, Reynoso, they know how to break down film. They know how to break down opponents, and what they saw is the same thing we saw, which is this guy comes in with his head down, high guard, and it's easy to slip those uppercuts through that high guard. And that's what Canelo was doing. You could see he was going for those uppercuts right from the beginning. Right from the opening bell, he was going for uppercuts. And then as he threw the uppercuts, he started going downstairs to the body. That's exactly what we said was going to happen. Go upstairs, make him pull up the high guard even more so, and then he'd lean into those body shots. He'd lift those elbows up, and the body shots would be there. And Canelo was just digging into the body. It's everything we've said about Canelo. Is he loves fighting guys in front of him, and he loves fighting taller fighters. He can dig into the body, get on the inside, throw those combination punches, and he loves fighting guys who don't mix offense with defense, don't counter punch. They just let you get your shots off, and that's what we had here with Yildirim. And it was an easy fight to break down. It was an easy fight to bet, in my opinion. And this is what Canelo was supposed to do, and he did it. And he stayed active in doing it, and he got paid doing it. He got paid 8 figures for this fight, for 3 rounds of work against this guy. Now, there are people out there who are going to criticize this fight. Oh, it's Yildirim. Why was he in the ring with this guy? Easiest fight bet of all time. Shout out D-Style. What's up, D-Style? Man, I'm gonna be wearing your shirt tomorrow night. So look out for that, man. That Hispanics causing panic shirt. It was an easy fight to bet. Not as far as the results, because we all knew what that was going to be, but as far as the quarterly breakdown of the fight. Rounds 1 through 4, as I said Saturday before I came on in the pre-fight show, rounds 1 through 4 was the bet to make. The over-under was placed perfectly at 4.5. Rounds 1 through 4 was the bet to make in this fight, because you got good odds at plus 105. So you're going to win money. You're going to actually win money for your bet. And that was a perfect place to bet. I think Canelo was holding back a little bit, possibly pulling his punches a little bit, maybe not wanting to hurt his hands before the fight in May. And that's what I said from the jump. He wanted to do this thing clean, man. He wanted to get this guy out of there. He wanted to do it without any cuts, anything like that. And they already had the announcement, as you saw on the big screen after the fight. So they didn't want to do anything to mess this up. And they had a guy in there in Yildirim who was perfect for this. I blame the WBC for this shit show. Now, I'm glad you said that, because that leads me to this. There are people who are negative about this fight. And, maybe rightfully so, but we can't blame Canelo for that. And you're right. We have to blame the WBC for this. Now, for the people criticizing this fight, I have 2 questions. All right. Number 1, what's wrong with fighting a mandatory in between 2 unification fights? Like you said, we can't blame Canelo for Yildirim being in the ring with him. That's his mandatory. We have to blame the WBC for that. That's not Canelo's fault. Canelo is fighting the guy who they're bringing to him for his mandatory. They're saying, fight this guy or lose your belt. So if Canelo wants to stay busy, we can't blame him for that. He's going to fight in December. He's going to fight in February. He's going to fight in May. He wants to fight again in September, and he wants to fight again in December. We should reward that. That's throwback. That's Julio Cesar Chavez, who in the early 90s was fighting 5 times a year, 6 times a year, 5 times a year, 6 times a year. And people are going to look back at it and look at the bums that Julio Cesar Chavez fought. But guess what? Look at who he fought around that. And he stayed busy the whole time. And it's good for boxing, for your big names to stay busy. Right? What's wrong with busy? And the second question I have for the people criticizing Canelo for this fight is, when's the last time your favorite fighter fought? And when is your favorite fighter's next fight scheduled for? Okay? That's the questions I have for you. All right? If you're blaming, Canelo fought in December, February, and he has a fight scheduled already for 10 weeks from now, at the beginning of May. Okay, so name your favorite fighter. I saw somebody on Twitter earlier saying in the pound for pound top 20, only 4 fighters have fights scheduled right now, as of right now. Only 4. And it's 2021. Dude, it's not 2020. We're not in a full-blown shutdown. Things are opening up again. We just saw Canelo fight in front of 15,000 people in Free Florida. So things are opening up. You don't have any excuses anymore. Get active. Everybody stayed on the shelf in 2020, with the exception of a few. So, I mean, I could throw out names. Errol Spence Jr., when's he fighting? Terrence Crawford, when's he fighting? Does he have anything scheduled? Manny Pacquiao have anything scheduled yet? When's the last time Manny Pacquiao fought? When's the last time Errol Spence fought? So Canelo, my point being, and I'm not blaming any of these guys. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not throwing out names just to crap on fighters. That's not what I do here. What I'm saying is, if you're going to blame Canelo for fighting Yildirim, the dude is about to fight 3 times in the span of, 5 months? When other fighters are fighting 0 times in those same 5 months. And you're going to shit on Canelo? All these one sitting at home watching Canelo fighting. That's exactly what I'm saying, man. Like, Charlo's there talking crap about the fans at the fight, saying look at all the empty seats. Dude, we're at like 25% capacity. They had like 18,000 people at the Super Bowl, whatever it is. And you're crapping on Canelo for having 15,000 there. Dude, if it was 100%, there wouldn't be an empty seat in that arena, in that stadium. I guarantee you. Canelo's a draw, right? It doesn't matter where Canelo fights. He's gonna pack it. He's gonna sell it out. So you're really going to do a video saying, look at all the empty seats when you're not fighting? And you came out and said you only want to fight one time in 2021 and you wanted to be against Canelo. You're betting against yourself when you do something like that. And what I mean by that is you're sitting back waiting for the Canelo fight to come to you. What if it doesn't? And more than likely, it's not gonna. So then you're just going to sit on the shelf. Get active. Canelo is showing you the blueprint. Be active. He's doing everything that's right with boxing right now. And we can argue the talent level. Some people think he's great. Some people think he's overrated. What we can't argue, man, what we shouldn't be able to argue right now is that this guy is doing it the right way. He's trying to unify a division. He's trying to unify belts, become undisputed in his division. They've given us a blueprint, 4 major belts plus the ring belt. Unify those belts against the top fighters in your division. Stay active, and you could become undisputed. He's fighting mandatories in between that when he can't get these guys in the ring for those certain dates. Staying active. It's a throwback. How many guys have fought 60 times in his career? He's coming up on 60 fights, right? He's not even 30. And he wants to fight 7 more years? 7 more years? How many fighters in modern boxing have fought that many times? I mean, you're talking about if he wants to fight 7 more years, that's possibly 15 to 20 more fights, and he's already almost at 60. So you're talking about a guy who could have 80 fights in his career. And he's doing it at this level, and he looks fresh. He looks fresh. I'm not saying that He didn't maybe pad his record early in his career when he was in his teenage years. Not what I'm saying, but you're at 60 fights, close to 60 fights. You're doing what you're doing in the ring and you look fresh. And I'll bring it back to my question, man. Like, for the people crapping on Canelo for this Yildirim fight, when's the last time your favorite fighter fought? Your favorite fighter. When's his next fight scheduled? I rest my case. If you can make a pound for pound list with the top 20 and only 4 to 5 fighters have a fight scheduled, and you're going to crap on this guy for fighting somebody, for fighting is mandatory in between, sandwiched in between 2 unification fights 5 months apart? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are we just trying to find things? Like, are we that miserable to where we're just trying to find things to be insulted and aggravated by? To where we're all the way down to Canelo being mad about Canelo fighting a mandatory in between 2 unification fights. He's already got a fight with Billy Joe Saunders scheduled for May. Come on, man. Charlo's ducking Benavidez. Benavidez is a problem at 168. Another guy I'd like to see more active. But if there is a guy at 168 that I could see beating Canelo, giving Canelo problems, it would be Benavidez. 37 really means till 38 or 39. Possibly. I mean, you're talking about a guy who could have 80 fights under his belt when it's all said. And Canelo would have fought 3 times in a period. Charlo gets a cherry-picked opponent. That's the thing, too, is like, if you're going to fight 1 or 2 times a year, you got to make it pop. And we're coming off the Mayweather era. This is the Canelo. We're entering the Canelo era now. So these guys have to look at this and say, all right, if I want to be successful, I have to be active like this guy and step up my game. The Mayweather era, it was like, all right, well, I'm going to fight 1 time a year. Try to make it count in that 1 time. I'm going to get paid regardless. So good for Mayweather. He got a lot of money, but he made a lot of guys complacent in feeling that they could fight 1 time a year, cherry pick opponent, and get paid a lot of money. Canelo is bringing it back, man. He's a throwback. So I like what Canelo is doing right now. What he's doing is great for the sport. Is bringing more fans under the tent. The zones. Let me speak on that real quick. Although I think the zone is doing a really, really good job of marketing, doing really good things. What I hate, and I want to get y'all's comments on this, is their commentating team is brutal, in my opinion. I don't know what was going on, who the 2 guys up there with Ryan Garcia were. I don't know what that was. It was the worst pre-fight analysis, post-fight analysis I think I've ever seen. And that's saying something. I don't like Sergio Mora as a commentator. And I'm not a Sergio Mora hater. I like them coming out of the Contender. I liked a lot of things he's done, but I don't think he's a good commentator at all. And I don't know the 2 guys' names who were up there in the booth with the female journalist. And I'm not knocking her at all either, but it doesn't work for me. There's not enough boxing knowledge there. When they're up there after the fight saying Canelo's already the best Mexican fighter of all time, it's just a matter of being arguably one of the best fighters of all time. That's when it starts to get carried away. And I think that's maybe where some of the Canelo hatred comes from some of these guys, to where they're saying he's the best Mexican fighter of all time and he just fought Avni Yildirim. I think that maybe that's where some of this hatred comes from. And it's a shame because it deflects from all the great things he's done. But when you hear these guys speak, and they obviously don't have any boxing knowledge, and then Ryan Garcia is just up there co-signing everything they're saying because they're just big-upping Canelo the whole time. It's just a bad look. It's not good boxing knowledge they're giving. It just adds nothing to it. They need better boxing brains in these telecasts, in my opinion. And they need to upgrade from a Sergio Mora, who just, to me, just does not do a good job. Just not do a good job calling fights. Hernan, let's see what this comment says. Hernan and Canelo seem to get along very well. They're both workaholics. Yeah, I think there's a good chemistry there. After obviously you saw it after the fight as well. Um, just a good dynamic there, and I think DAZN does a really good job of marketing. They've done a really good job, but they need to up the game as far as commentating goes. Like I said, I don't know what that was up in the booth with those two gentlemen. I don't know who they are. Obviously, they're journalists of some sort, but they just didn't have any boxing knowledge. When you start to hear things like Canelo's already the best Mexican fighter of all time, he's already surpassed Chavez. No, no. Look, we have to see the whole resume, but he's not there yet. And I love Canelo. I'm a fan. I love what he's doing right now. He's a throwback, but no, he's not there yet. He's just not there yet. All right. We're talking about Chavez on the Mount Rushmore. All right. So, no, man, come on. They need to up their game. But let's get past that. Billy Joe Saunders is announced. They did a good job of the telecast after, putting it on the big screen, announcing the fight. Eddie Hearn coming out. They did a great job with that. It was WWE-esque. Very good job. Very good job. Boxing needs more of that. Let's see what D Styles said. I'll jump on your show tomorrow after. Just email me the link. Of course, man. And I'll have that shirt on. So, dude, love the shirt. Shows off this physique. Hispanics causing panic. Check it out. He's going to be back. Let's see what Outlaw said. Hearn seems to have a very serious man crush on Canelo as bad. Look, man, let me tell you something. A lot of people have a man crush on Canelo, and a lot of women have a woman crush on Canelo. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Hearn goes a little too far. But I don't understand what the people were doing in the booth. Those two guys, whoever they were, the journalists, they were getting carried away with the Canelo love. It was Canelo's already the best Mexican fighter of all time. It's just a matter of will he be the best fighter of all time? That type of nonsense. I understand why people were sort of turned off from that and started with the Canelo hatred. I think that's where it comes from. But the zone just needs to step up their game, man, as far as commentating. I'll just leave it at that. They really need to step up their game. So Billy Joe Saunders is announced, and I love it. I love it. People kept saying there's a style out there that's going to give Canelo problems. Back in the day, it was guys like Austin Trout, Erislandy Lara, Floyd Mayweather. We've heard all this. But over time, Canelo has gotten better with this type of style, the lateral movement, the boxing ability, working behind the jab, working off the back foot, all this stuff. KG, clever guys. Canelo has gotten better against those guys, but also he's gotten better against those guys as he's moved up in weight, and there's a reason for that. It's one thing when you're fighting a shorter fighter with lateral movement. It's tougher to get to those guys. It's tougher to get to the body. Those guys are just naturally quicker. As you move up in weight, these guys have longer bodies, taller bodies. You can get to the body. You can slow them down a little bit, and they're not as naturally quick. I mean, if you play basketball, for instance, and you're a tall guy, it's hard to stay in front of a shorter guy who's quick. That guy gets you out on the perimeter, you're done. You're done. Try tackling a short running back if you're a defensive lineman. It's tough. It's a tough thing to do. Same thing. You're fighting a shorter guy with good lateral movement. It's tough to get to that guy. As you move up in weight, those guys become naturally smaller. It's easier to dig into the body. And that's why Canelo, one of the reasons he's gotten better with lateral movement as he's gone on, because he's naturally moved up in weight and he's fighting guys who are naturally a bit slower. Also, he's gotten better with it. He's just gotten better as a fighter, much better. And it's good to see the evolution of a fighter in Canelo. He's just gotten better year by year, fight by fight. And that's what you want to see if you want to see a guy turn from a good fighter to a great fighter to a legendary fighter. Right now, he's a great fighter who can become a legendary fighter. It's all there for him. So he's just getting better and better and better. You just see it. He's putting those punches together better. The combination punches are crisper. They're landing better. It's all there for this guy. It's working for him with Reynoso. It's all there. Dude was wearing PJs at the press conference. Yeah, Eddie Hearn has a interesting, very interesting thread game, man. He dressed like a pimp, Eddie Hearn. But good for him, man. He's got the cash cow Canelo that keeps fighting on that network. Very good move for him because the ratings in May are going to be a bonanza. I'm telling you. You got the Mexican fighter against the European fighter. Both have big names in the boxing. Well, not in the boxing world for Billy Joe Saunders, but he has a big name over there across the pond. And boxing fans in America do know Billy Joe Saunders, although the casual fan won't. But the casual fan's going to come for Canelo regardless. And they're going to know Billy Joe Saunders after. Now, will they know him as the guy who upset Canelo? Or will they know him as just another name on the resume of Canelo? That's yet to be seen. But me, personally, I don't think Billy Joe Saunders' style is going to be much of a problem for Canelo. I actually think Canelo matches up well against Billy Joe Saunders. The reason being, and I'll talk about this a lot the upcoming months leading up to this fight, I don't think Billy Joe Saunders has enough punching power to keep Canelo at bay. I think Canelo's just going to keep walking him down. He's not the plotter that he used to be. He's quicker on his feet now, better with lateral movement. He can walk you down. I think he's just going to wear Billy Joe Saunders down. Billy Joe Saunders has not, and people keep bringing up this topic that Canelo hasn't seen anything like Billy Joe Saunders yet. A southpaw, this big with a slick style, technical fighter, lateral movement, very athletic. Canelo hasn't seen this guy at 168. Maybe true, but this isn't as big of a jump for Canelo as it is for Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders is a huge jump for him. Huge jump. He hasn't seen anything like Canelo. Anything. He hasn't seen anything like he's going to see in May. Big lights, Cinco de Mayo weekend, and I hope they can get this fight in front of as many fans as possible. I'm very interested in seeing where the venue is going to be. I think it's going to be Vegas. We'll see. Vegas, Texas, Florida. Where will it be? I think one of those three. I'm thinking Vegas, but they need to get this fight in front of as many fans as possible because it was good seeing Saturday night a big fight atmosphere again. It was good seeing the fireworks. I have no idea who the dude is who walked out Canelo before the fight. I'm almost 40 years old, so I'm I don't know, man. I don't know pop culture anymore. I don't know who this dude is, but it worked. It worked. The fireworks, the fandom, the ring walk, it all worked. It was good seeing that again. It was good hearing that crowd again. Enough with the bubble stuff. Let's get these guys in front of crowds again. There's a way to do it. I think we can do it now. Let's get these big fight atmospheres again. And I hope they can get this fight because this is a fight that belongs in front of as many fans as possible. And I hope that happens. But as far as the undercard, I want to talk on the undercard real quick. The Chinese heavyweight, he just doesn't work for me. And that was a good fight. That was a really good fight. Really good heavyweight scrap. Zhang, I think his name is Zhang, pronounce it. Once again, I'm horrible at butchering names, but he fought Jerry Forrest. And Forrest, I thought he was out. He got knocked down 3 times early in the fight, and then Zhang came back. Jerry Forrest got his legs back, and Zhang, a guy they're trying to build up as this Chinese heavyweight, big guy who can come in and become a top 10 heavyweight. He's just not that. Very low ceiling in the heavyweight division. He's not going to be a top 10 heavyweight. Anybody with a pulse is going to knock this guy out because serious defensive deficiencies and also cardio issues. It was the 5th round, and his mouth was just wide open. And he was just falling all over himself. Just didn't have it. But it made for a good fight. And once again, as long as you don't have to be a great fighter. As long as you make for good matchups, there's a market for you. But they have to match this guy right. They have to match him with guys like Jerry Forrest. Don't put him anywhere near an Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder because those guys will knock his head off his neck. All right, so keep him away from those guys. Just market this guy well. Put him in there with the Andy Ruiz, Chris Arreola winner or somebody like that. But keep him away from guys like that. But I wouldn't mind seeing the rematch because it was a really good fight, a tale of 2 different fights. Zhang dominated early. Forrest came back late, and it became a draw, majority draw. So a really good fight, really good heavyweight scrap with a lot of action, a lot of power punching. I enjoyed that fight, but as far as Zhang, whatever his name is, very low ceiling. Not going to be a great heavyweight. And then you had McWilliams Arroyo beat Abraham Rodriguez, and props to Rodriguez, man. Props to Rodriguez for coming in on short notice, because it's a very difficult thing. I think he came in with like 3 or 4 days notice. So props to him for taking that fight, so Arroyo could still fight for the interim WBC belt. Martinez pulled out again due to the hand issues. What was weird about that is they had a press conference where Martinez was there, and then later that day they backed out of the fight due to hand issues. So that's going to be a good scrap at flyweight, the lower weight classes, whenever they make it. Hopefully this spring or summer they can finally get that fight to happen. And because Arroyo versus Martinez would be a beautiful fight. Beautiful, beautiful fight. But Julio Cesar Martinez pulled out again. But what we got was Arroyo showing why he's Arroyo. Combination punching, just a firecracker in there. Has power, can put the combinations together. Crisp puncher, just a thing of beauty he showed in there. And he stayed active. I was glad he stayed active. And he didn't lose that date. Still got paid. So good for him, man. McWilliams Arroyo with the W, and did it in entertaining fashion in front of a big crowd on the Canelo undercard. So good for him all around. And I hope he finally gets that Martinez fight to go through. Last but not least, man, I don't know if y'all saw this today, but Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola is announced. And when I saw this earlier, when I first saw it, I was like, yes, because that's a good heavyweight scrap. That's perfect matchmaking right there. 2 Mexican heavyweights. Heavyweight division, not a division you think of when you think of Mexican fighters, but 2 Mexican heavyweights who can punch and who like to mix it up. That's going to be an entertaining scrap. However, as I kept reading, I read pay-per-view. This fight is going to be on Fox Sports pay-per-view. And I thought, they ruined it. They ruined it. It was good until I saw pay-per-view. Then I thought, they ruined it. They ruined it. Why did they do that? And I'm sure there's an economic reason for it. I'm sure it's they had to do something to fit the number, make the numbers right. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong about this, and the pay-per-view numbers are going to be good. But this just isn't a pay-per-view headliner. It's just not, man. It's just not. A pay-per-view headliner? Chris Arreola in 2021? No, man. No. Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola would be the undercard of a pay-per-view. It's not the headliner for a pay-per-view. It's not. Pay-per-view. Yes, this is a Fox Sports pay-per-view. I hate it, man. I hate it. 60,000 buys. I give them a little more than that just because they're going to pack. They said they're going to pack the card with a bunch of Mexican fighters. So maybe it'll sell. I don't know, man. I just think it's one thing to say you're just going to pack a card. Great. I love that. But the headline fight still matters, right? It still has to be a banger. So although this is going to be an entertaining fight for however long it lasts, it's still Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola, which is not a pay-per-view headlining fight. And that's no disrespect to Andy Ruiz, who beat Anthony Joshua not too long ago. Still a very good heavyweight. But although an entertaining fight, I think we all pretty much agree with this comment right here that Andy's going to beat the out of Arreola. I agree with that. I think Arreola is going to get in some punches. Arreola is going to come in shape. I think all of that. I think he's going to come in shape and hope that this is his comeback fight. This is my last whiff at a big fight. But Andy Ruiz is on a different level than Chris Arreola in 2021. And I would argue that Andy Ruiz, who fought Anthony Joshua, is much better than the Chris Arreola who fought Vitaly Klitschko back in the day. The Vitaly Klitschko that had Arreola crying after the fight. And no disrespect to Arreola, because Arreola actually came in shape in that fight. He was up and down with the cardio and all that and staying on weight. But Arreola was never at the level that Andy Ruiz was when he beat Anthony Joshua. And I'm interested to see in what kind of shape both those guys come in, though. I think Chris Arreola is going to come in shape. Hopefully Ruiz does too. But if Ruiz comes in any type of shape, he mollywops Arreola. It's going to be a quick fight. I hope it's not one-sided. I hope Arreola has his moments in the fight, because I feel like that's a good ESPN fight. Lomachenko versus Teofimo is on ESPN. That's a good DAZN fight. But once you start talking about pay-per-view, it's like, maybe if it's the co-headline, maybe if it's, just an undercard fight, but for a headliner for a pay-per-view, no, man, I'm not going to pay for that fight. That's a fight I'll watch on YouTube the day after, something like that. But it's not a fight that I pay $60, $70 for, even $40, $50. Not a fight. I don't care how much they pack the card. I'm just going to have to catch that on YouTube the next day or wherever. So that's just where I'm at with it. But it is, I was glad to see that fight was made, because it makes sense. It makes sense. Get Andy Ruiz back active, and this is the perfect fight to get it done on. Get him a good highlight knockout in a fight that's going to bring a big crowd, and hopefully anyway, and bring some eyes to the fight, and get Ruiz active again, get the blood flowing again, and get his name mentioned back in the top fights again against guys like Deontay Wilder or something like that, or possibly a Tyson Fury, So it gets Andy Ruiz going again. But just to recap, man, that fight's announced. Billy Joe Saunders, he's next on Canelo's hit list, and Canelo looked good, man. Canelo looked good. Look, don't blame Canelo that the WBC or whoever put Yildirim in the ring with him. Don't blame him. Blame the sanctioning body. Blame the sanctioning body for putting Yildirim in there. Canelo, you line him up, he fights him, he stays active, and that's what he did here. I just recapped that, man. For those of you complaining about him fighting Yildirim, when's the last time your favorite fighter fought? When's the next fight that your favorite fighter has scheduled? I rest my case. This guy's going to fight 3 times in 5 months, 2 unification fights in those 5 months, and he has a mandatory sandwich in between. That's old school. That's old school. That's what fighters did back then. Not every fight's going to be a banger, but as long as you stay active, those types of fights are going to happen. And in my opinion, you should be forgiven for that. So Canelo did his thing. I appreciate all the comments, all the viewers tonight, man. Hit that sub button. Hit the like button. Check out Hispanics Causing Panic tomorrow night. Shout out to all those guys, D-Style, G-Funky, and everybody doing it up on the YTBC. I'll see y'all tomorrow night, man. Peace. God bless.